To lead differently, Ohana. I am truly excited today. Let me tell you, when I say I have someone that is phenomenal in this room, words cannot express what a treat you are in for today. Listening and hearing. Get your pen and paper out because yeah, like I said, she gonna, not she's going to. I just want y'all to know I can speak articulately, but she is going to share some nuggets of wisdom, and I'm excited to be able to learn and sit at her feet. So, good morning. Welcome, Supervisor Bailey.
Good morning, my friend. It is an honor and a privilege to be with you this morning.
It is my honor. I will tell you that when I first met you at the Married on Purpose conference a week or two ago, I think it was, right?
Yes, yes,
Hosted by Dr. Sorrel de Herbin, and what a phenomenal presentation that she put on. It was
absolutely.
a great moment of growth and celebration and
Yes,
fellowship. So
yes. And
kudos to
authenticity.
exactly
Ah,
genuineness. So I
yes.
really enjoyed that, but I was so happy and just thankful that I got the opportunity to meet you.
Oh, and I feel the exact same way. I think when you touched me, when I came in and I sat down and I had one breath and you touched me, a calmness came over me. And I'm so very grateful for that. Because my mama says all the time, can you just sit down for a minute? I move all the time.
Get somewhere and sit down.
Get somewhere and just sit down, little girl. But when you touched me, that gave me a sense of assurance and calmness. And I'm appreciative of that. Oftentimes we miss those moments
Hmm.
if we're not in tune.
Well, it was just when you came into the room, because remember we were waiting for you to come, and
Yes,
and there were blocks trying to get you there, traffic and everything, but I was
yes.
just so elated when you came in the room. The atmosphere changed.
Oh,
I don't know if you recognize that.
I
And
never
what
do.
what
Mm-mm.
well what I call that, and what I tell my grasshoppers, those are my people that I've trained while I was in the military, is when you come in the room as a leader, you should change the atmosphere.
Yes, I
And
agree.
and
Yeah.
that's when you know your influence is well beyond you. But look, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm so excited. I got to tell the people who you are first. Hold on.
Oh, bless
All
you.
right, so let me go official right now.
Okay.
Supervisor Andrea O. Bailey is currently serving her second term as the Potomac District Supervisor for Prince William County, driven by a deep seated passion for public service and regional progress. A recognized leader in infrastructure and policy, she holds influential seats on the Virginia Railway Express Board, the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments Executive Board, and multiple Virginia Association of Countries committees spanning health, education, and transportation. An unwavering advocate for the vulnerable, Supervisor Bailey is a primary champion for mental health services, the county's crisis receiving center, and local homeless shelters. Her leadership extends to the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Washington and the Jimmy and Rosalind Carter Political Leadership Advocacy Advisory Board at George Mason University. Her distinguished career is rooted in 20 years. Did y'all hear that? 20
Mm.
years of corporate leadership and a decade of small business owner, as a small business owner. A former military spouse, whoop, whoop, of
Woohoo!
23 years, she remains a pillar in her community through her roles at First Mount Zion Baptist Church and as a lifetime member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Supervisor Bailey holds a master's in science and human resource management from National Louis University and is a graduate of the VACO Certified County Supervisor Program. Again, welcome, my friend.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I am very much excited about the opportunity to talk with you today about absolutely anything that you'd like to discuss, but my passion is leadership. And so it's a joy to be here to have some girlfriend time to
That's
talk
right.
about some serious stuff.
Serious things. So,
Yes.
so let's dig in.
Yes.
So, first question that I'd like to talk to you about is how do you define leadership today compared to when you first entered public service? And was there a specific moment that it shift for you in your perspective?
When I read that question, it gave me a moment to reflect on where I've come from and where I am now,
Hmm.
and hopefully where the good Lord is leading me to. And what I mean by that is, I came from corporate America in my professional life, and did quite well in leadership in corporate America. And I often joke about did well. I started out in marketing with soft skills and thought I was going to break the glass ceiling and had a lot of mouth and not a lot of talent, to be quite honest with you. And really, in my early part of my career, almost lost my career because I had a lot of mouth and not a lot of skills. And so, oftentimes in your leadership, when you are in that kind of space in your life, you don't know what you don't know.
Hmm.
And so, in corporate America, it was a span of about 20 years, almost 20 years. But I learned a lot about actually what my skill sets were.
Okay.
And what I mean by that, just traveling along the journey, is I wanted to really break the glass ceiling, but I didn't know why. And I really wanted to make a lot of money in corporate America, and I didn't know why. I just thought, that was the popular thing to do
Okay.
back in the day when you were in corporate. You got this high-powered job, and you got this high-powered paycheck. You bought this high-powered pocketbook, Louis Vuitton, da 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 da, and I still like those, but and you drove this high-powered car. So
All
that
right.
meant that you had made it.
You were successful
You were
if you
successful
reach those things.
if you reach those material pinnacle things.
Okay.
Uh, but I learned that my leadership really began prior to me going to corporate. And what I mean by that, all my life as a young girl, a little girl, my mom and dad always taught me how to be, as an only child. That has a lot to do with it for me as well, to be the first, to sit up front in the front seat, enunciate your words properly, um, and ask important questions. Think about what you're going to ask first, and then at the end of the day, success will come to you. And so, in my corporate life, those kinds of foundational things really did set the tone for me to be successful in corporate America for those 20 years. But also having the drive to improve my craft.
Hmm.
I started in marketing. In the middle part of my career, I was in sales. At the end of the career, I was in HR, retired as a HR director. And so, as I grew from my foundation, my mama's house, mom and daddy's house, my success back in the day was bred on my skills. But I didn't really pay a lot of attention to my innate leadership abilities.
Hmm.
So, as I transitioned as a military spouse, 23 years in the military with my Marine Corps husband, who is my best friend from 14 years old until today.
Hoorah.
Yeah, I'm telling you, being in the military taught me so much about community and looking out for others. Just because I had didn't mean that others
Had.
would have.
Yes.
And just because I came from a good foundation didn't necessarily mean that young moms or youth had the same type of foundation as I did or my son did. And so I learned in the middle of my professional career a lot about community. And then lastly, as I transitioned out of the military and corporate into my civilian life, I learned that leadership for me is about being a servant leader. And
Mm.
I learned that from working in my church after retirement. I became a deaconess in my church in '02. I'm still a deaconess in my church because I don't want to make God mad at me.
No,
So
we don't want that. We don't want
we
that.
don't want
We
that.
don't want that.
So my servant leadership really has kind of stood the test of time with me from my maternal and paternal days up until now. So for leadership for me is serving to the best of your ability with the experiences that you've had, but the foundational discernment that you carry. That's so important to me.
Yeah. Well, as you share about this, is that journey, right? That
Yes,
journey from when you first started, right? Me,
yes,
about what it is, about what I want to gain. What
yes,
am I going to get out of this? To the metamorphosis that happen across the experiences you've had in
yes,
the different environments to understand that it's not about me, it's about them, about the people. How do I
yeah,
serve them? Because if I
yeah,
serve them well, me in the midst of it, I will grow to those heights of
yeah,
getting that area of success, whatever and however you define that.
yes.
But you got to have the right focus.
You got to have the right focus.
Yeah, yeah,
And
you got to have the right focus.
I love the terminology that you use, the metamorphosis of that, because I am a life learner. I believe when you stop learning, you stop growing. And,
Not
and
that. Hold that. Pin that right there, because that right there is so simplistic, yet it's so profound. Can you
mm,
say that one more time?
when you stop learning, you stop growing.
Mm.
You merely
Stagnation.
stop. You stop.
Yeah.
Because if you stop growing, then you think you've got all the answers. You don't need anything else. You're
Hmm.
set
You think
for
you're
the rest of
perfect.
your,
That
yeah,
that's
you,
that perfectionism kind of
yeah,
mindset
yeah,
that kills leadership excellence.
yes,
When we think that we are perfect in a particular area, then we feel we don't need to learn anymore. I don't need
right.
to change or find out is there a better way of doing something because I'm perfect at it.
Yes, yes. And oftentimes that's when we make our biggest mistakes.
Yes, yes. When you
I
talk
would,
about the losing the opportunity, almost losing your job, there was a time in my career where perfectionism sat on both of these
yeah,
shoulders and on
yes,
top of my head, right?
yes,
And
yes,
it was at that point where the reality set in. I almost lost my job because when you're a perfectionist, you don't treat people the way they should be treated.
that's right.
You treat them how you want to treat them,
How
just to
you want to treat them.
manipulate them to get them to do what you want to do and not
Yes,
truly lead them.
absolutely. Absolutely. And what that causes is for you not to be the best you that you can be.
Yes.
But you have to have the wisdom and the experiences to want to change that thing.
You got to. You
You
got to have
have
a
to.
willingness.
Yeah.
You got
When
to
I
want to
think about,
change.
you got to want to change. And when I also think about my foundational development with my parents, because and I wanted to bring this back because I was an only child. Oh, they just thought this little girl was just perfect. They prevented stuff that they saw coming,
Okay.
and they fixed stuff that was there. And so I had no opportunity really to experience something that was not unusual,
Hmm.
something that would not make me seek to understand better. And I looked to them to fix it rather than myself. In my early years, I would say even up to my early 20s,
Wow.
you know,
Okay.
and there was an element of stagnation in that. But in our leadership, we have to have the desire to have a broader vision than just ourselves. That's so important as we grow and have the desire to grow, as we age, as
Mm.
we matriculate to a different season in our lives. We have to have that desire to grow. If we don't, we stop.
I was interviewing Jolly Williams, Dr.
Oh
Jolly,
yeah, I know him.
Willie Jolly. I'm
Really
sorry, I'm
jolly.
saying Jolly
Yeah.
Williams. Yeah.
Hmm.
Sorry about that, sir. But anyway, I was interviewing
We
him.
love you, Willie.
Yeah, we love you. We love you. And he and
Yeah.
I were talking, and I was sharing with him, John Maxwell talks about the leadership lid. And
Yeah.
it ties into what you just shared. That leadership lid is if I am at a 10 as a leader in my learning and my growth, then my people can only get to 9, right? Because
Yeah.
if they're not going to get higher than me.
Yes.
But as I grow, they grow. As
Yeah.
I keep learning, they keep learning.
Yes.
As I keep challenging myself, they keep challenging
Yeah.
themselves because they emulate what they see.
Hmm.
And we as leaders, we owe it. I always say that it is an honor and a privilege to lead someone because they
Yeah.
don't have to follow you.
Yes. They
In
don't have to.
the military, we say, you got to follow the person that has the higher rank. Well, true, I have to do my job in support of what you're asking me, but true
Mhm.
fellowship means that I've bought into your vision.
That's right.
I understand the commander's intent and what you want to do and provide for the organization. So to
Hmm.
me, there's different levels of followership.
Yeah.
So
There is.
how would you say for you, for leaders that you've followed or been under, how has that changed your perspective and kind of the mindset and how you lead?
Well, I always start from a point of this is very important to me in my leadership, respect. People will say, I respect the position and the title, but I don't respect the person.
Heard that many times.
Yeah, yeah. So really, what does that mean? That means you don't respect me. You don't really care about the position or or any of that. You're just saying that. Those are just pretty words. But I always, for me and my house, I start from a position of respecting the individual. That's important to me in my leadership because people come to the table with different elements of leadership, different ways of doing things. And they're not my ways, and my ways are not their ways, you
Hmm.
know. But I also believe when I do that, that opens the door for collaboration.
Yes.
It
Yes.
opens the door for collaboration. And then the other thing is valuing integrity and what we are trying to achieve. Now, when I was in sales, that was a me thing. That was an independent contributor thing. That was a you do this, you get your good commissions check thing.
You can make change to make some change.
Yes, yes. But the
Okay.
people that had to help me get the subject matter experts, the leaders that had to help me get to that point, to get that commissions check, I had to trust and respect that they knew better than I, because that's what they were trained in. So that element of respect, the element of integrity, being able to govern my leadership and myself, even when you're not watching me, am I still the same leader that I
Mm.
said I was when I presented myself to you? That is very important to me. That's my value. That's my core value. And also understanding that you really don't ever get anywhere by yourself.
No, no, you definitely
You
don't.
just don't.
The arrogancy of thinking that you do,
Yeah.
that to me is where, back to what we were talking about earlier, that's where you stop growing
Yeah.
because you feel you
Yeah.
have all the answers.
You got all the
Yeah.
answers.
Yeah.
And so for me, respect, integrity, and collaboration are those core values that I carry with me a lot. And being able to, yeah, I know your audience have heard this too. Keep your head on the swivel.
Yes. Yes.
What type of resources can I bring into my leadership, into my world, into the vision that that God has given me to accomplish? Who can I bring into that circle while my head is on the swivel that
Hmm.
can breed success for the whole? Because if I breed success for the whole, then as you said, I'm going to be successful. I'm
Yes.
going to reap the benefits and the fruit that's there for me. So those premises are very important to me, but also recognizing in my leadership if there's something that is stopping the vision, and how do I handle that?
How do you deal with that conflict?
Well, that conflict for me, let me just say, for me as an only child, that's always a challenge. And I'm being straight up about that one. It's
Okay.
always a challenge because I always want to know why. But you just might not understand why. You may not get the why. But handling the conflict in a very integral, uh, respectful, and of late, I've grown to not handling the conflict by reacting.
Mm,
In the past, I can't tell you that I didn't do that, but sometimes conflict for me now, particularly being in politics, sometimes you want to say something, but you just maybe shouldn't say it
yeah,
because it might wind up in the papers,
true.
might wind up social media, but having the wisdom to know when to respond and when not to respond
Yeah, I
and
think that
how to
that's
respond.
that right there is key because to me, the fallacy that many people think is that every conflict can be resolved, and it cannot
Yes,
be, but
and
I
it
can
cannot.
manage it
Yes,
with the right tools. And sometimes that management is I need to avoid it for right now until I have the right way of addressing it to then come back and then
yeah,
share my thoughts.
yeah,
But back to that point of you saying the reactionary piece, that in conflict we and as leaders, that's huge because
that is.
it might not show up in the papers for me, uh, but it can show up in the space of someone recommending my services to someone saying, no, you don't want to deal with General Young. She's too impulsive.
Yes,
She doesn't understand how to collaborate or compromise or accommodate.
yes,
She's just it's her way or the highway. All she does is compete. But it's knowing how to address that conflict in a way that there is still a bridge to walk across
that's right.
for us
That's
to
right.
have the meeting of the minds and to be able to still get after what we both want to have out of that situation. And I know for you, I'm pretty sure in many situations the mind says that inner mind says, "Ooh, if I could just say what I really want to say to you right
Yes,
now."
yes,
But when you do that, you just said what you wanted to say for a moment, but it didn't give you the results you needed in the
yeah,
end.
yes. Because I will tell you that the reason why I am in politics at this in this season of my life is because I want to leave a legacy of leadership. I want to leave a legacy of doing for people in my servanthood. I want to be guided, first of all, by God on His pathway for where people can look back and say, I remember having a conversation with her, and just maybe I was not my best when I had that conversation with her, but it's how she addressed it with me that left an indelible mark on how I'm going to move forward. That's important to me. That's very important to me. I want to share. That's how I got into being the champion for the Crisis Receiving Center.
Oh, share that. I was going to ask you a question on that, but yeah, let's go into it.
So, one of the things that when I first got into politics, I ran on the basics: education, transportation, economic development. But my passion, my platform was homelessness. And so I got to see it in order to deal with it. So I went into the tent cities with the homeless and engaged with them to understand what their needs were. And when I went into the tent cities here locally, I realized that it wasn't just the fact that they didn't have shelter. These were individuals, human beings that were dealing with mental health issues
Okay.
that no one had addressed in helping them. And so that was my first term, homelessness, but my second term was mental health. And so in doing so, I realized that mental health has been an issue in our country that has been long time swept under the rug as if it just didn't exist. But people were suffering mentally. And so my passion to do that led me into my preparation to look at my leadership not just from an individualized political aspect, because politicians we can be, and that's why I don't call myself a politician. I call myself an elected official here to serve. And I
I
say
like
that
that.
because politicians can be very myopic, uh, work in their own silos. They're
Hmm.
competitive by nature. We are competitive by nature, but it's all about us. It's all about me. And that I identified early on, that's not who I am. I literally want to serve in my political life. So for me, identifying what the needs are in my community for the least of these drove me to an element stronger than I've ever known before in preparing to bring mental health like a phoenix out under that rug.
Yeah.
That was pinnacle. And so what I did is I said, I can't do this by myself. Yeah, it's a great idea, but what does that mean? It's a great idea to me, but is it a great idea to everybody else? So
Yes.
what I did is I brought together 93 stakeholders that had their individualized areas that they worked in, non-for-profits, public safety, the hospital associations, federal and state and local elected officials. 93 stakeholders, brought them together and painted a picture of what this would look like if we prepared to serve the least of these and heal minds. Because my mantra is, if you heal minds, you heal the land.
Mm.
If you
Heal,
heal minds, you heal the
heal the
land.
land. Okay.
Yeah. So preparation is very key for me in leadership. I don't work well when I don't read notes that the general sends to me so that I can be prepared. I don't function well in an environment, even if I don't have preparation, when I walk in the environment and it doesn't say what the environment said on the piece of paper.
Hmm.
Preparation is key in my leadership, and taking the time to step back for a moment to see what the landscape is.
What value can I bring to that setting? But
Yes,
without knowing what that setting is. Now, there are parts of leadership, from my perspective, is just by being a leader and a leader of servanthood focus, you'll be able to speak to stuff. But if you really want the value that I bring, then allow me to prepare so that I can meditate on it, chew
yeah,
on it,
yeah,
digest it, so
yeah,
that I can be as best prepared to share that value that's going to be transformational and that's going to be insightful for those who are going to experience what you have to share.
yes,
That's where General Young comes from.
yes,
Never in the military as a GO did I go into a setting and I didn't know what it was about.
yeah.
I didn't get my read ahead, as we call
That's right.
beforehand. Because
That's
if I
right.
didn't get a read ahead, sometimes I would say, I'm not going to that meeting.
That's right.
Because there are times when that meeting could be a setup
That's
for a
right.
takedown.
For
And
yes,
I need to be I need to be as
absolutely.
prepared as
Absolutely.
I can, because not so much for me, but my people are depending on me to be
Yeah.
able to lead well and represent well.
Yes.
My mantra was presentation is key.
It's the optics. It's
Yes.
the presentation is key because when you prepare, you walk in the room and the room is set, your team is set. They know you've delegated, they know their responsibilities.
Hmm.
They can react in a very positive and strategic way.
Yes.
And so and creating this crisis receiving center, because we had a problem. The problem was not just mental health. The problem was when someone was having an episode, that the police would go and get them, put
Hmm.
them in handcuffs, take them to the hospital on a stretcher, and they would lie on a stretcher in handcuffs. Just visualize that, without any aid for hours while having an episode,
Wow.
because there were no rooms or no uh, sections called the mental health unit, or whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
for someone to get aid in a crisis.
That
So,
right there is so, I mean, just the visualization of that,
yeah,
that you're
yes,
going through that episode, and it kind of reminds me of like being on the island of Patmos all by
yeah,
yourself,
yeah.
and there's no one there that you can
There's
call
no one there.
upon to
Yeah,
be able that understands what's happening with you.
yes, yes.
Did that lead you into understanding that there was scarcity of mental health professionals to be able to help address this issue? Did you find that out in
Oh,
that situation?
absolutely. Yeah, that was the research. Because I needed to understand, excuse me, why were the police going to aid someone having an episode? Why wasn't it a mental health therapist with a co-responder from the police, excuse me, from the police department? Why are there no beds in the hospitals to aid a person and calm them down to a point where they can have mental health services? Why is there, once the problem is resolved, why are there no services for the person to go, if it's a homeless person, to find housing or to get pharmaceuticals that can help them with their mental health condition for the rest of their lives? Why are So out of that, Phoenix grew No Wrong Door. So now what we have, and again, understanding your resources, we had a building that needed to be retrofitted. The building was previously used during COVID to get shots and to get testing.
Okay.
79,000 square foot building that was just lying dormant out of COVID. And so, because it was in the county, we knew of the building. We examined the building, looked at it to determine what can we do to make this a crisis receiving center with no wrong doors, with the services that any individual, adult or youth would need. What can we do to retrofit this building at minimal cost of the taxpayers' money? How can we do this? And so the other part of my job as an elected official was bringing my colleagues to the table, my colleagues, my local elected officials, colleagues, my state colleagues, my federal colleagues, all of those who I had built relationships with
Hmm.
over my tenure. How can I get the funding that I need and the resources that I need to retrofit this building to aid someone that's going through an episode? And we did it in record time. Usually a project like that would take anywhere from, I'd say, 5 to 10 years. We
Yeah,
did it in
that's what
four
I was
years.
thinking, 5 to 10 years with all the red
No.
tape and all that
Yeah.
stuff. Yes.
No, but because of my resume, and I appreciate you reading all those beautiful words, but I'm intentional. I'm an intentional leader. I'm on those boards to bring these resources to my county. So I'm on the Virginia Association of Counties board because I'm the chair of Health and Human Resources. That puts me in a space of dealing with state elected officials to understand what resources they can provide to my county as well as funding. I'm on the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments board because that puts me in a space of partnering with my federal elected officials, Senators Kane Warner, Congressman McClellan, Congressman Jerry Connolly, God rest his soul. That puts me in a space of understanding what federal grants are there available to help me retrofit this building
Hmm.
so that I can stand it up appropriately to build a no wrong door, bring our community service board into this building so they can offer pharmaceuticals, housing, education resources for the people that are in this facility. So it was quite a partnership and a collaboration that my leadership led with my partners to bring forth the vision for my community. And I got to tell you that, and in doing so, here's another thing. I'm on the county board. There are 8 of us. There were 5 Democrats and 3 Republicans.
Mhm.
There are now 4 Democrats and 4 Republicans. Yes, 4 Republicans. No, no, excuse me. Yes, 4 Democrats and 4 Republicans. And
Okay.
so instead of Andrea Bailey having this vision and saying, this is the Andrea Bailey vision, I'm going to do this by myself, I presented this to my colleagues and got a bipartisan vote of making sure that everyone was bought into making this a success. And yes, and I don't say that because it's for everybody, for the least of these, for everybody, not just for us to put it on a resume.
Well, and I like how you told the story of the different pieces and the strategic focus you had to have,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Of what is the focus, what is the purpose, and why we're going after this. Not just a good idea, but what is that return on investment, which is that intentional value,
yes,
and then doing the research,
yeah,
the relationships you had to build. Leadership is about building relationships
yes,
and that networking and connection of being able to be a facilitator of bringing the
yes,
resources together. That to me is where you had to have the make decisive and informative decisions to move it forward for it to actually become a reality. I call that the SIG law approach to leadership:
yeah.
strategic focus, intentional
Intentional,
value,
yeah,
and decisive and disciplined decision making.
yes,
Now,
yes.
that right there is leadership.
That's leadership. And let me just say also, I am a student of Maxwell. I am. I remember back in the day, I took this class in my corporate life, and it was so impactful for me, and put me on a different trajectory in my leadership. But 2 things that you just said that also infuses me as a leader: intentionality and strategy.
Yes.
And I truly believe that God has gifted me in that way. That's why it's very important for you to understand what you bring to the table, because everybody doesn't bring everything or the same things.
No.
And the intentionality of what you're doing, why you're doing it, what are you trying to achieve, is for me pinnacle.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I an elected official? Why am I sitting in that seat? Why is it that the people, and this is something I'm very proud of, from a standpoint of I want this. My community, my return on investment in my voting is 65%. You only got to get 50 plus one.
Wow.
And first it was 64% in 2019, 2023, 65%. So what that says is that the people want to collaborate and partner with me for the community, because I can't be here with you without the people's endorsement.
So very
That's
important.
that's important. So my intentionality in my servanthood is to serve the people. That's why I sit in the seat. And then strategy. If the people ask me to do something, I've got to be very strategic in how I do it so that I don't disappoint the people. There has to be a strategy.
Mm-hmm.
That's why tools and resources and collaboration, it's so critical,
Mm-hmm.
because the people perish without a vision and you perish without a strategy.
Yes. Yes. That is so very true. The beauty though, what I love about what you do
Excuse
is
me.
the authenticity. I coined the phrase a leader, a real leader. Leadership is about being a real leader. You got to be reliable. You got to
Yeah,
be encouraging. You
yeah.
got to be approachable. And you got to be
Mhm.
loyal to the cause of what it is that you've been given to be able to be an influence that's going to make a change. And with the different things that you shared with us today, people being able to see not just words,
Yeah,
Does your video match your audio?
that's right.
And to be able to see like the crisis center being stood up,
Yeah,
see the value and impact and the change in lives that that is doing for the
yeah,
community
yes,
is a tremendous impact. The other part is to be able to bring together two opposing sides, Democrats and Republicans. We all
yeah,
have our own views, right? Each
yes,
each group has their own view, but
yes,
we can be on different sides and still come together and
yeah,
join together in collaboration for the good of the people, because that's what we were put here for in
that's right.
those positions. So
That's
I
right.
just I love that. And then talking about your philosophy of integrity, the values, the respect, all of that encompassing in leadership, the continual growth. But there was one thing you said that I would ask you to expound a little bit more on before we close. You talked about self leadership, which is, we know, can be the most difficult thing
Mm,
to do as a leader. But to cultivate my own self awareness means
yeah,
that I have to get to know who General Young is. And why
yeah,
does General Young do what she do?
yeah,
Why does she react the way she reacts?
yeah.
All of those things is getting that internal work that has to be
Mhm.
done in order for it to be showcased and shown to the people that I'm the right leader for this position at
Yeah,
this right time.
yes. So thank you for bringing that back because that is really um, a growth, a regrowth place for me right now, and I want to share why. I shared with you a couple weeks ago. Just lost my mom, and I'm not, though I miss her, I'm not saddened by that. And here's why I'm not saddened by that. She's with me each and every day and how I present myself and how I lead. Because one of the things that my mom taught me, and my dad did too in his way, but my mama's teaching in this was very strategic. My mom was very sacrificial for her family, of course for me. At one point, she was a single parent with me until she and my dad remarried. They remarried three times to each other. Go figure that. But anyway,
Okay. All
yeah,
right.
yeah, I don't know.
Love is
But
love.
yeah, love. It was love. It really was love, and a deep-rooted commitment to each other to really to serve. So I get that from both of them. But from my mom sacrificing herself all of her life for others. She was a nurse by trade, but she took care of the family.
Mm.
Born and bred in Macon, Mississippi, and migrated to St. Louis, Missouri, first educated in the family, who was able to bring in an income to take care of the family. I was raised in a four-generation home, me, mama, grandma, and great grandma. So she took care of that unit, but she was very sacrificial to the community.
Okay.
And so I think when you ask me about my self leadership, one of the things as an only child that people don't often recognize that I'm an only child because I'm not selfish.
Mm.
Of course, as an only child, I've had material things all my life because it's only me. But the selfless piece of me is the sacrificial piece of me in my leadership. Because in this seat, General, I'm willing to take the hit for the people. In this seat, General, I'm willing to sacrifice not having a vacation, which I need to do self-care a little bit
Yeah,
better.
self-care is important, leader.
Self-care is important, but I'm willing to maybe not take the vacation in August and take it in December because of things that may be happening legislatively for the people. Sacrificing in your leadership is so important in your growth in your leadership. Because if you're not willing to sacrifice for the vision and for the good of everyone else, then again, you're stuck. You're stuck. You're stuck in not. bringing in the different ways of solving the problems. You're stuck in not bringing in a step back to make a better decision in your decision making. And you're also stuck in not bringing your true, authentic self to the table when it's needed to say that one thing that can shift the atmosphere
Mm-hmm.
to a better thing. So, sacrificing, being a sacrificial leader is my self leadership, not to a detrimental perspective, but just being able to understand that it ain't all about me.
Yeah, that in itself is when we as leaders think it's all about me. Now I've had my seasons of growth through that process.
Oh, we all have.
Because I
Yeah,
would tell you,
I
when I
have
first
too.
started out in the military with milk behind my ears as a second lieutenant, it was all about me and that car and getting that apartment that I wanted, and
Yeah,
who can help me get to the next level so I can get more
yeah,
money in my pocket to do those
yeah,
things. But as I grew and as I gained more knowledge and as I had different experiences, I began to learn that it wasn't all about me. And when you talk about your mom being a sacrificial leader in that
yeah,
way. It
yes.
reminds me of my mom, Miss Annie Lou Williamson, Pastor Annie Lou Williamson, who's 91 years old, still preaching today.
Ah, ah,
And seeing her as I've grown up, her way of leadership, and my dad, who's 92, Deacon Willie James Williamson Sr.,
wow.
has shown me he's shown me the quiet side of leadership,
Yeah,
competency but quietness, and being more observant. My mom of showing me how serving other people is a gift.
yeah,
Having the opportunity to serve other people is a gift. It's
yes.
not a burden. Now I will tell you, when I was young, I was like, "Oh, mom, why are you doing this with this family?
Yeah,
Why are you doing
yeah,
that for that family? What?
yeah.
Why are you making me give up my Christmas toys to the other
For
kids?
them.
They
Yeah,
got parents.
yeah,
Let their parents
yeah,
buy. I
yes,
want to keep my jukebox I just got
yes,
for Christmas.
yes,
I'm the
yes.
baby of the family, so that's kind of like being
That's
a
like
single
being the only
child.
child. Yeah, it is. It
But
is.
seeing her build what is today a
Yeah.
church that's already paid for,
Mm.
building a community
As
where
a woman.
people, as a woman, building that, taking that vision and never letting go of it
Yeah,
when there were struggling times, because she started out at the house in the living room. From the
yeah,
living room, went to the front storefront down in
yeah,
Darlington, South Carolina. And then
yeah.
from there, because of her leadership and her ability to collaborate with
Yes,
others that had resources, having the person who built that church, he built it because she asked for it, not because she had the money at the time to pay for
that's
it.
right. That's right.
That in itself, audience, is a nugget. How impactful is your leadership influence that
Mm.
someone will just on because of your character do
Mm.
something for you?
Yeah. So, and again, the CRC. It's not because I'm so smart or because I'm so good or because I'm a millionaire as an elected official. None of that. It was because of my collaboration, my ability to support others when they were in need to bring forth a vision, and how my character, my reputation, and my character had developed an element of trust in the community regionally.
Mm,
That's what I worked on because, again, I can say a lot of pretty words, but if I don't put out what I'm talking about,
they're
it
just
means
words.
nothing.
Yeah,
It's,
those are just words.
those are just words. And so, it is important to me that, um, and I say this as a woman as well, it's important to me as a female elected official, female leader, that I really do what I say I'm going to do. And if I can't do it, I also come back and say, here's what I tried to do, but as I look at it, I'm not going to be able to come and deliver like I thought I was going to deliver, and be willing to hear from you. Well, Andrea, you may not, but how about if we wait 2 years? Or how about if I help you do this way? I got to be open to that
Yes,
as a leader. As a true leader, have to be open to, and it does, and understand in my self leadership doesn't weaken me, it strengthens me.
actually, yeah, I was getting ready to say that the ability to go back and communicate what
Yeah,
is within my power to do and what
yeah,
is not, but to not go back and communicate that and try to find other ways in which
yeah,
we might not be able to go the straight way. We might have to maneuver down some hills and valleys and things to get to where we want to, but
yes.
that communicate, that honesty,
That
uh,
honesty
is so crucially important when we're
and
communicating.
the courage to do that.
Yes, yes. That's leadership at its core.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
having the courage to be able to say this is within my power or it's not within my power to do. But
mhm,
let's come together, a meeting of the minds to figure out how we can still get to where we want to do. Get to that focus if possible. Or if that is not possible, we both understand the reasons
yes,
why we cannot get to that particular
that's right.
thing you want us to do at this time. I think that's so important. Many leaders, I think that's where we falter when we
Yes,
feel I don't have to come back and tell you.
that's right.
That's that arrogancy.
That's that arrogance. And that's, if we don't do that, see, that's where that respect comes from.
Yes.
When we do that. Uh, and 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 it does take, and I want to say this too, because that's the other thing that I'm learning about myself. The courage. Courage is so needed at every step of leadership. It's courage. It's not about the technical piece of leadership or the title. It's the courage to step out on that faith and just know that you are equipped to do what you are called to do. And
That's
for
important.
me, what how I start my day every day in that courageous place is by prayer. I can't do it without prayer. That's just who I am. And a lot of my um, peers, they wonder, how do you keep doing? I see you everywhere, blah, blah, blah. Well, it's prayer.
Yeah,
And
your
my
spiritual
and
faith is your cornerstone.
it's my
That's your foundation.
cornerstone. Yes, it is. And that is my arsenal to success.
Oh, I like that. The arsenal to success.
Yes, it
That's
is.
awesome. Now here's what as we come down to the end, which I don't want to stop this conversation, and I would love to have you back if you're amenable, so we can
Oh,
continue this conversation even more.
okay. That's fine.
But
That's
what I
good.
want to ask you as a closing question, what would you say to women
Mm,
out there that say, I have a dream. I see myself doing X, Y, and Z, but my mindset says that I can't. My
mm.
mindset says I don't have the resources. I don't have the intellectual capacity. I don't have a community around me. What would you say to encourage them to dare to lead differently?
One of the things that Maxwell has said, feel the fear and do it anyway. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Feel the fear and do it anyway. And what I mean by that is sometimes, and I see that as fear, because fear sometimes can, not sometimes, most times, can be a comfortable place for us to just resonate. But I believe that as women, we are equipped more beyond we can even imagine if we just take that one little step outside of fear. Because fear can also catapult you to take that one step. Because as women, sometimes we can be a little defiant,
Just
just
a,
a little,
just
just
a
a
little,
little bit.
just a little.
So that's the catalyst. It's the positive thinking. That's the catalyst to help you take that one step. And I would encourage any woman who has a dream to understand that the dream is planted there not as a facade, but as an action. And all you have to do is open your heart and open your mind to the possibilities of how to do it. Because the dream is just the blueprint, but the blueprint has to have the strategic plans for each block to move forward. And that's the piece that you might not have, but you got to be willing. You've got to be willing to pursue the blueprint. It doesn't just stop at the dream. It stops. It doesn't have to stop. It's continual.
Yes.
It's continual. But believing in you, having the courage to believe in yourself, having the courage to stretch out and into untethered waters that may not feel comfortable to you, because I believe that as women, innately we have that. But also understanding that the fear that you feel could be the catalyst to the next step.
Oh, I like that. Fear can be the catalyst to the next step.
Yes,
It's all in how you look at it.
it's all in how you look at it.
Well, it has been just a pleasure and a treat talking to you. I can't wait to see you at the Dare to Lead Differently Summit
I'm
that's
excited
coming
about
up.
that.
I can't
Yeah,
wait to give you a big hug.
me
But I
too.
do thank you, Supervisor Bailey, for coming and giving us these nuggets of wisdom, sharing from your heart, being authentic, and sharing the different struggles and triumphs that you've gone through in your leadership. But more importantly, telling us how we can get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
And in that, just in the position you're in, speaks volumes to your leadership capacity and your leadership capability. So from now on, you are forever for me the atmosphere changer.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot to me.
You are
Thank
the
you.
atmosphere
Thank
changer.
you.
So thank you again to our Dare to Lead Differently, Johanna. Check us out. We're going to be having more amazing conversations with just tremendous people that are real, but sharing nuggets that can help you elevate to the next level. We'll see you when we see you. Peace.